Well, fantastic headlines for the Prime Minister today, and by most accounts, she's played a bit of a blinder. Are you able to give us some credit for what happened yesterday?
Absolutely. The Prime Minister came and gave MPs three really important assurances about what she was going to go into bat for in Brussels. And the response was that we backed her and will send her to Brussels with a reinforced hand. And at the same time, Parliament cleared away all of those sort of guerrilla warfare attempts to wrest control of the negotiating agenda. So I think in terms of Brexit, it was a good day for the country, but also a good day for Theresa May and the government.
OK, and then within a couple of moments, journalists went to EU leaders and they all said, I don't know what you're on about, we're not changing anything. So what does she do next?
Well, the usual suspects commented, but I think there is a much wider diversity of opinion. Michel Barnier on the 24th of January said even in a no-deal scenario, there would be no hard border. They'd put the operations, the technology in place. If that's true that they can do that within 2 months, they must be able to do it within 2 years. So there's a really big decision for the EU. There's a deal that could pass here in Parliament that will be good for the UK, and if the EU wants it, that deal is there to be done. If not, it will be the EU's decision to push us to a WTO departure.
I mean, the irony of all this is that Theresa May has now done what many of us have been crying out for her to do from the start of all this, which is use no deal as the ultimate bargaining chip against the EU. When you negotiate anything, the ultimate bargaining chip is to walk away with nothing. And finally, that's what she's doing.
I hate to say it, Piers, but you're right. And the attempts to legislate to frustrate that default option failed last night. No one wants to leave on WTO terms. I don't want that. I want us to get a good deal. And that is now in play for the EU. And they'll have to look very closely at the EU interest, the Irish interest, but also the mutual interest. And there is a deal to be done. And I think it was a good day for Parliament. And I think for your viewers and listeners, actually, Parliament got its act together and the Prime Minister was stronger as a result.
But what happens if she goes to the EU and the EU dig their heels in and say, no, it's not happening, we're not budging, take it or leave it? What does the Prime Minister do in that eventuality?
Well, I think we should keep the arm of friendship extended to the EU and keep trying to get a deal, but not at any price. The deal's got to work for the UK. The deal currently is fatally flawed because of the issues around the backstop, which you rightly mentioned. And if the EU just takes a computer says no approach, if you like, and just refuses to budge, and they're used to going to the 11th hour, they like to take these negotiations to the wire. I think there's a good chance they will move, but if they don't, we will leave on WTO terms. There'll be some short-term risks, but we'll manage them. But we'll then at least have a clean Brexit, be able to put this behind us, and I think for many people actually get Brexit done and move beyond it and talk about all the other things that matter to them.
I mean, the trouble is that there are those who argue all she did yesterday was unify enough people to get behind her deal by promising something which is effectively a unicorn. I mean, alternative arrangements instead of a backstop have no substance really at all. And as we keep saying, the EU says they're simply not going to budge on it. Was this actually about playing to the European Research Group, the hard Brexiteers, people like you, to get you all behind her, but actually, in reality, is just a fantasy?
Well, the original deal fell by 230 votes, biggest parliamentary defeat in history. I think if we wanted a deal, the Prime Minister needed to know exactly what she could go back and say needs to change in order to pass it through Parliament. That's what the EU asked for. This is clearly a change that can be made. Michel Barnier on the 24th of January made that clear. The question is, do they want a deal? And the ball is in their court, and I think some of the pressure now is on them to decide, do they really want to extend the arm of friendship back to the UK, reciprocate on the good faith, the pragmatism, the flexibility, and get this deal done. The deal is there to be done. Now it's up to the EU to decide what they're all about.
Now you're sounding a little bit more pro-Theresa May. You're hoping that if the deal gets done, you get parachuted back into the cabinet, Mr. Raab?
Look, I took a judgment call on principle. I think that has been demonstrated to be right. But what matters far more than myself is the good of the country. And I'm pleased to see that we had a good day on Brexit. And I'm pleased to see the Prime Minister strengthening, going back to get that deal and deliver Brexit in a way that, frankly, matters far more than the permutations of my career.
I'll take that as a yes. Dominic Raab, thank you very much indeed.